of this Charlie Kirk assassination, because it's possible that the person who assassinated him, Tyler Robinson, was radicalized by Fuentes and then went on and killed Charlie Kirk for not being sufficiently right while taking up a lot of the right's attention, right? So that's possibly a motive and a realization of the actions of Charlie Kirk's assassin. He might have been a Groyper, a Nick Fuentes fan. So what that's going to do is draw a lot of eyeballs towards Nick Fuentes. And this is where I'm betting that other people won't. Some people are going to think that, well, you know, once it gets out that Nick Fuentes radicalized Tyler Robinson, then Nick Fuentes is going to be stigmatized and his influence is going to diminish. And he's going to be forgotten to the dustbin of history. And I actually think it's going to be opposite. Once people realize that Nick Fuentes radicalized Tyler Robinson, there's going to be an increased interest. So they're going to go and listen to what Fuentes has to say. And then they're going to compare that to some best hits that Charlie Kirk said. And they're going to realize that actually Fuentes is just more interesting, deeper in just about every meaningful way than Charlie Kirk. And it's actually going to grow Nick Fuentes' reach, right? So I'm betting that more people are going to be radicalized by Nick Fuentes, because even with the stigma of people going to Nick Fuentes, because he's in the all popularity or all news is good news stage of his career and stage of his thought relative to the rest of the conservative kind of cesspool. Because when you're competing with like the Nilk Boys and Crowder and Tim Pool and Ben Shapiro, it's not much to be more interesting than they are. And then you look at the liberals and they don't get the argument at all. So you're just looking, or Matt Walsh, like all of these kind of not particularly bright or interesting conservatives that have a large market share of the young conservative white mind without being particularly interesting or deep. People will get more fulfilled by listening to Nick Fuentes. So it'll drive people to give Nick a chance. And since these people are so starving after the morsels given to them by lesser lights, Fuentes is going to increase his market share. And so once your friends and possibly sons get radicalized by Fuentes, because if you couldn't keep them away from, Jordan Peterson or Andrew Tate or, Tim Pool or whatever, you're not going to be able to keep them from Fuentes, except Fuentes is more interesting than those guys. So it's going to be even a bigger issue. And if you don't want them to become enormous racist jerks, then you're going to need some sort of prophylactic. If not a prophylactic, a remedy, an antidote. And that is why I do this particular show. So whether you're watching this show when I'm live, or whether you're watching it in a few years when one of your friends has been radicalized by Nick Fuentes and you can't understand why, well, I'm going to tell you why. Because he understands freedom and he understands the importance of given determinations. That means that freedom requires you to accept aspects of your world that you don't give yourself, including your nation and your tradition and all of the laws that you would rather not have. But since you live with other people, you need to accept them as external determinations or as determinations of yourself as you are mediated through all of these governing processes. And so that sounded like a lot of talk. But the alternative are liberals who will tell you that freedom is a matter of doing what you want. So anybody who tells you that freedom is a matter of doing what you want, it's not going to be particularly fulfilling. And because when you're in relationships with people who do whatever they want when they want to because they want to, nobody is free. They're a slave to their passions and you're a slave to their whimsy. These are the people who flake on you for every reason. So there's an America that is tired of flakes and is tired of an American culture that tells people that it's okay to be flakes. And that means they're going to throw away the liberals because liberals will tell you it's okay to be flake. Follow your whatever. And so they'll throw themselves to the conservatives, and the conservatives will be lightweights. Or tell you that you can't be flakes. You have to go with these given determinations. You have to go with these given traditions. You have to go with your biology. You have to go with your phenotype. You have to go with these rules that are in place external to you, and you just have to suck it up and accept your destiny and your fate in that way. And these are the kind of low-grade conservatives. But at least they're not telling you that you have to suffer flakes in yourself and in your life. At least these people are telling you that discipline is good and discipline allows for meaningful relationships. The problem is the disciplinary measures and the source of the content of the rules that you're going to have to submit to is alienated from yourself. It's a given determination by, your tradition or your biology, right? So the conservatives will tell you that freedom's going to come from actually abiding by laws with other people, and they're right. Now, I'm going to tell you, since I'm a left Hegelian, not a right Hegelian, I'm going to tell you that freedom comes through abiding by laws given by other people who are participating in an institution that you yourself have equal and fair participation in, right? So you still have to abide by laws, and the laws are still given externally to you insofar as they're not tied to you immediately, but they are still tied to you mediated by our democratic processes. And I'll also tell you that there are different institutions of this kind of freedom, right? I'll also tell you that at the political level, we need borders, so we get to decide what kind of things we want to be as Americans. And that allows other people, Canadians and Mexicans and Japanese, to decide what they want to be as Canadians, Mexicans, and Japanese. And if we got rid of borders, they would tell us what we could be, and we would tell them what they could be, and nobody could actually be self-determining. We cannot be who we want to be. So borders are good because it allows us to bound ourselves and tie ourselves to each other so that we can decide who we want to be, but not tie ourselves to everybody. So everybody doesn't get to tell us who we are. Only we determine who we are. We decide we want to go to the moon, then we go to the moon. And they decide they don't want to go to the moon. That's fine for them. But here in America, we go to the moon, right? And so that's why borders are important. It allows for a kind of self-determination of people on both sides of the borders. Without borders, other people are determining who you get to be and what kind of laws you have. All right? So that's at the political level, they understand that borders are important because they allow for the determinations, the limits that allows us to be different from others. Without those borders, we're not allowed to be different from others. And that means we can't actually determine ourselves as different from them. And maybe part of my freedom is determining myself as different from them. And so we get together and decide we're going to enable ourselves to be different from them. And that means they have to stay over there and we are over here. And that's perfectly appropriate. We get to have our country and they get to have theirs. Right? Now, there are other kinds of ways to be free, still requiring limits, but with a more immediate tie. For example, the freedom of our families is one of those things liberals don't get. I want my family to be different from other families. And insofar as other people get to tell my child what to do and make them do it and what to think and make them think it, that affects me because I have an immediate relationship with this child. And so if you do anything with them, that is actually, it affects who I get to be. Because part of who I get to be in my immediate relationship with my child, is determining who we are as a family. Right? So there's some things that the families need to be able to determine that I don't want government to be able to tell me. I don't want government to be able to infect my child. I want my family to be different from other families, which is fine. I allow them to be different from my family. There are lots of ways to be family. And I need the conditions for allow me to be my way, right? Now, someone like Fuentes will say, like, right, family is important, but he gets it confused because he ties family not into the realization of this kind of particular kind of freedom, but to some sort of biological inheritance that'll extend to extended families and clans and shared genes in a way that I'm talking about the immediate tie of a nuclear family to determine what the content of their day-to-day life without the external imposition of, for example, the rich grandfather or the dowager wealthy aunt determining. I want freedom from all of that. And I think families should be free from all that, which is why I've given so many left defenses of the nuclear family, because the nuclear family needs not only freedom from clan, like the government, they need freedom from clan governance. They need freedom from the wealthy uncle. So the nuclear family needs to be stable so that it could support itself. And so we need policies that support nuclear families so that families don't have to depend on clan governance. So it's not the rule of the tyranny of the richest uncle or the rule of the tyranny of a possible inheritance. You should not have your family be determined by the prospect of ticking off Mima and Papa. That is not freedom, right? And this is where I get deeper than the right Hegelians, who will say that like liberals are wrong, but extended family is freedom. I'm saying that like liberals are wrong, like the government shouldn't raise your child, and like your child shouldn't raise your child. They need parents, but also the extended family shouldn't raise your child because you need freedom from the extended family in order to be the kind of family that you want to be. Right. So there's an America First, where part of what the content of being an American is deciding what kind of thing we are as Americans, as a nation, but also as an American family man. I get to decide what my family is. Like myself and my wife and our kids, we get to decide. I don't have to listen to the government, and I don't have to listen to my wealthy uncle or aunt, or I'm not vulnerable in that way. And so we need a politics that supports families being independent from all those strictures, from being independent from the clan governance and being independent from governance. So that means we need people to be able to work, right? People to be able to work or own businesses or have assets, some way to support their family without having to succumb to clan governance or succumb to like the public dole. Right? So their activity needs to be able to support their family in being free in the way that they operate. Right? So someone says, how can Nick Fuentes speak on families without the wife and the children? He's got an elegant answer to that. He doesn't want to bring a wife and he doesn't want wife and children because his life is dangerous. So until he could secure what it means, until he could secure a family, he doesn't want to birth a family. So in that way, he could say that he's being responsible because he doesn't want to go out like Charlie Kirk. He doesn't want to go out like Charlie Kirk and do that to his family. So I think I've heard Nick give this answer to how can a guy without kids care about the family, talk about the importance of family. He's like, well, I don't have kids because I respect my family and I know what I do is dangerous. And I think he's already had an assassination attempt on him, like a real one. So that's going to be his argument for how a guy without family can talk about the importance of family. And I actually respect that. For example, a lot of people think that, how can you talk about children so much and the importance of family? You don't even have children. Well, now I have 3, but I used to speak like this back before I had any, and people didn't take me seriously. And I was saying, you're screwing up your children, A, B, C, D, and people say, well, you'll know once you have children. Well, now I have 3 high-performing children by every metric, and I was right. I was right the whole time. You just didn't listen to me before I had children. But now that I have empirical evidence that I was right the whole time, you should probably just listen to me about parenting because I'm just right about things with respect to how to raise good children. Right? So So Nick will be Huey Nkrumah says, why Hegelian dialectics and not material dialectics or historical materialism? Well, Hegelian dialectics, and if you actually talk to Kwame Nkrumah, he'll tell you that there's an ideological component, and it realizes the importance of ideality in the world, right? So we're not materially determined, we're materially enabled to access an ideological emancipation. So we can actually be free for each other, for and with each other. We're not determined by our material circumstances in that way. We can be free for and with each other. That is our material inheritance. It allows us the capacity to form free relations. That might have been a little bit in the weeds a little bit for the answer, but that's why self-governance is important and not just determined by material circumstances or economic your economic situation. You could actually, once you get enough, you could actually determine who you want to be, and it's not going to be determined by like the prospect of more money. By the way, this is what makes Fuentes so dangerous, because he understands this, which is why he can't be bought. There's no amount of money and no amount of like big boobs that will buy Fuentes, right? Which makes him, because he gets that like real meaning is ideological. Real meaning is the ideas that you put in and their ability to live in other people's mind, not the money you have in your wallet. Not all of that. Because after a while, the money gets boring. If you have money and your kids don't listen to you, what does your money even do? Like, talk to Elon Musk. He lost kids, right? So like, what do you get money for if your kids don't respect you and don't listen to you? And they might not respect you because of your money. They might respect you because of the wisdom you give them. My kids don't respect me because I'm rich. My kids respect me because I have made them pretty excellent at everything they do. And even when they didn't want to, I made them do it. And now they look back and think, thank goodness I listened to my dad. And when those times they didn't listen to me, they look back and think, I wish I listened to my dad. That's why they respect me. Not necessarily because I'm the richest guy. By the way, if you appreciate what I'm doing, go ahead and go to www.funkyacademic.com, kick in $5, $15, or $50 a month. Because like I said, I think what's going to happen is Charlie Kirk's killer is going to bring attention to Nick Fuentes, and then people are going to listen to Nick Fuentes, and then they're going to realize actually Nick Fuentes is more interesting than, Brian Kilmeade or, Crowder or any of the other guys that they were listening to. So Nick is actually distorting consciousness. And this is actually an important argument, right? So there's raising consciousness, which I try to do with this show, and there's kind of raising consciousness in a way that's not particularly healthy. And then there's just kind of like organizing the consciousness that's already there without raising anybody. So folks like Crowder and Kirk and to an extent Trump, they're organizing the consciousnesses that are already there. They're not changing anyone's mind on anything. They're just telling people what they want to hear in a way that organizes them without making them any deeper or smarter or anything like that. Right? So that is what they do. That is what the Crowders and the Kirks and the Tim Pools and the Nelk Boys, all these guys I don't really like actually listen to, but I know of. They just organize the consciousness that are already there. They're not making anybody deeper. They're not changing anyone's mind on anything. When they own the lib, they don't convert a lib. Or like they don't even convert any conservative or anything like that. They're just organizing the consciousness that are there. Now, Nick is deeper than that. He will actually raise consciousness. He'll actually give you arguments that will highlight an ideological inconsistency or like some sort of, it'll raise your quality of thinking in a way that distorts your thinking. Right? This is why Nick is more interesting than those. This is why like when Nick comes across, like when he talks about America first, not Israel first, and that you can't be both an American first and like let Netanyahu or Zelensky decide your foreign policy, he's right. And all of these other guys who like didn't get there was okay with Israel deciding our foreign policy, like Nick Fuentes is gonna get there first. He's gonna understand America first seems to be fine. Right? So like he's gonna get there first. He's gonna get to the deeper argument faster than the idiots on the right who just resuscitate conventional wisdom. He's gonna get there first. Problem is his consciousness raising is distortive. He's gonna raise them in a way that's like not particularly consistent with the conditions of self-governance. Right? Get a Clue says, I was surprised that Nick Fuentes thought that Charlie Kirk was a liberal. His work, not his words, not mine. Yeah, well, Charlie Kirk was a globalist. Charlie Kirk was fine with supporting Israel no matter what, even when Israel made like claims on American sovereignty. So yeah, that is a quality of liberalism that is uncalled for. And the problem with all of these guys is that they're not particularly deep. Like Charlie Kirk was a grifter insofar as he would say whatever the money wanted him to say. Nick Fuentes isn't that. Nick Fuentes is not going to say whatever the money wants him to say. He's going to try to make his money by convincing the money, bringing the money to him with his arguments, which is, I think, much more impressive, which is what I try to do with this show. Like when I say you go and give $5, $15, or $50 a month, it's not because you're going to change it's not because I think that I'm telling you what you want to hear because it's what you know. I think you're going to do it because you're grateful for what I've given you because I've allowed you to create meaning in your life by showing you that maybe you didn't know what you thought you knew. And Frank Vibe says, are you going to the gym, bro? Why, do I look swole? No, I mean, I've always been in better shape than you think. I run with my kids and I'm their cross country coach. So I'm running a lot. And, I don't know. I've probably just always been in better shape than you think. But what I am saying is that I'm trying to increase the quality of your life by deepening your politics. So families are important because they allow a certain kind of freedom that the liberals won't respect because they think that the freedom of the family, the freedom to actually have a particular kind of family that's different from other people's family is threatened by the government trying to raise your kids, is threatened by clan governance. It's threatened by your great uncle, who now you need because you need their money, that it's threatened by that kind of freedom, by that kind of relationship. So if you actually care about families and supporting families, you need to make sure that all Americans have the conditions to turn their labor or their assets into sustenance for their family's way of life, their family's particular way of life, so that their family's particular way of life isn't a tool for the rich uncle or a tool for the government, but can be determined by themselves as a family, right? So that's a real America First family freedom. We need government policies that allows families to work to have to live the kind of way that they decide they want to live, which is different from their neighbors, which is different from even their church mates. Right? That's what real family sovereignty is. And that means that we need teachers who don't try to usurp, and schools that don't try to usurp the place of the family. But instead, we need schools and policies that support the family. It's funny because I coach cross country at my kids' junior high cross country team, and I'm telling them right now, I have hard conversations with the family members that cross country is a family sport. You need to force your kids to run when they don't want to. I force your kids to run when they don't want to at practice, and you need to do that at home and in the off season, because if you want your kids to be their success needs to be a family project. I can support the family project of making your kids a success, but it needs to be a family project. I need, And so that's how I talk to my cross-country families. And that's how I talk to the girls' soccer families too. I can help your child become a great soccer player as a family project, which means you need to come to practice and like watch what I do at practice, so that when I'm not here and it's just you and your kid at home, you can practice them as if I were there. Right now, the Suzuki project, like the music lessons, they actually get that. They understand that there's a triangle. There's a teacher, there's the parent, and then there's a child. And if the parent and the teacher are not, and the child are not all on the same page, the child suffers. Now, apparently in the culture of youth sports, and this is kind of a tangent, but it's related, there are like entire practices that won't let parents see the practice. That is ridiculous. That is absurd. I need parents to see the practice. I want parents to participate in the practice. I want every parent to try their hand at being one of my assistant coaches. That will make the student better. Like that's what I need. I need every parent to participate in the practice as much as possible. But now the culture of youth sports, it says like, no, when you give yourself to the coach, don't participate. Like the coaches, the parents and the coaches have to be separate. No, that is garbage. If you're serious, you understand that the kid's success has to be a family endeavor, and you're there to teach the family how to be the kind of family that produces, a great athlete. Right? So I want parents to come to my practices. It's not only my practices are open, I want parents to be on the field, doing the drills, and now, since I'm cross country, later we go soccer, I want them doing the drills and running with the kids. The more parents running with the kids, the better. Tay Dick says, Funky, who made you the expert on raising kids? Well, you can look at my wonderful kids. You could say that like empirically, but also I've read books. Like, who made me the expert? Well, Plato, Aristotle, Hegel, like all of the people that maybe you should have read. Rousseau's Emile is actually pretty good. I did a show on Rousseau's Emile. You should go back and watch that show, because Rousseau's Emile is actually very good. It's all about the practical education of kids and how to make kids who are doers, and not merely just kids who understand that their life is manipulating other people. That was Rousseau's, big concern with raising kids. You want to raise kids who could actually do things, not just think that life is about manipulating, elders. Right. So we can't break colonialism with integration. Yes, we can. Right. So the problem with integration is we didn't integrate the power, we integrated the pawns. We integrated schools, not school boards. Like, I'm in an integrated family. My wife's white, but we're both American. And I don't integrate on my knees. We integrate standing. You have to integrate standing up. We integrated knowing, my wife knew that I'm not scared to tell white women to just shut up. Like, why are you talking? She knew that was me. And not just her, I'll tell all of her white friends that, like, you just need to hush. And you can't do that if you're scared of them or you need their money. Or even if you do need their money, you can't both integrate and be dependent on them for something. You have to be able to go without. If you're not willing to go without and you integrate, then they just run you because they have money and you don't. You have to integrate with power. You have to integrate from autonomy. You have to integrate not on your knees, but standing up. Right? And you can in an America that actually supports that quality of individual autonomy and building relationships with autonomous people. Free people can only be free with other free people, which is why, like, a lot of billionaires either need to make their friends rich or have rich friends, because everybody else they can't have free relationships with, because everybody else is farming them for some sort of is going to tell them what they need to hear. So free people can only be free with other free people. So if there are any questions in the chat, there you go. Hope I've answered you. The America First right understands borders matters, understands families matters, but they think that these determinations are given externally through tradition or through biology or through like things that you can't reason your way out of with other people. The American left understands that borders are important, families are important, but they're important because they allow a quality of reasoning. They allow a quality of relationships that allow for us to determine what kind of people we are, what kind of family we are. So families are important so that I can be different from other families and I can realize myself with my family, with my immediate relations in a way that's different from the way you realize yourself. And in that way, I am self-determining. And you get to determine yourself as other than me, which is fine for you, and I get to do this, right, in this way with the people who are immediately next to me. Now, with people I make rules with, I get to do that in my state. You can have a different state and make different rules, Canada or Mexico, but in here, I need these people who are pledging to be responsible to me. And you need your people who are pledging to be responsible to you, that's fine, but I don't need people in your state coming over and telling me how to run my state. And that is why, like, I need borders. I need labor policy for people who have agreed to run by my rules. And that's fine if you want to have labor policy that's fit for people that you deal with, but I want labor policy that's fit for people that I deal with, right? So, like, we need borders in order to have a differentiation that comes with freedom, that comes with liberty. If without borders and everybody's telling everybody else what to do, and I can't say, like, no, you mind your own whatever over there, then I can't actually be realized, like, in a determination, right? So that is the left Hegelian understands that these institutions matter, families matter, like organized labor matters, borders matter. And they're all institutions because it's only within those determinations that you can be free, that freedom can be realized, and it's not just a mess. Of Rhythm says, I want a borderless society. Yeah, you probably want a familyless society and all of that stuff, but you can't have determinations in a borderless society. You can't be a certain kind of thing because you're trying to be everything. That's like the tofu society. Tofu is great because it could taste like meat, it could taste like ice cream, it could taste like chicken, but it's not any one of that. You'll have a tasteless society and a meaningless society because it won't actually have determinations that can hold. Right? You want the open relationship of society. You want the no-fault divorce world of society, and like no, that you can't have meaningful relations in that world. That's a society of flakes, because it's a society of flakes. Nobody's responsible for anybody. In the guise of we're all responsible for everybody. That doesn't work that way. So no, I'm anti-borderless society. You need borders. I want those borders policed, and I want extradition, and I want yeah. So if the chat doesn't have anything, I will tell you that if you appreciate what I'm saying, go ahead and go to www.funkyacademic.com. If you think that families actually realize a peculiar kind of freedom that you can't have in a familyless society that's either run by the government or run by extended family, then go to www.funkyacademic.com and kick in $5, $15, or $50 a month. If you think that borders matter in a way that you can't have and that allow us a certain kind of freedom and rulemaking that you can't have when you get rid of borders, then I'm the one who's telling you why you should do so in a left. All right, so Huey, there's a super chat that says, The U.S. has proven itself to be the enemy of Black America. True. How can you be America first and pro-Black? Well, I'm America first because I am not... because I'm tied to the ideology of America, of a self-governing nation. Right? So America is not... I'm not America first because it's a country I happen to be born in, and no matter, like, regardless of its principles. I'm America first because I think it has the inheritance to get out of its more nefarious aspects, right? I'm America first in spite of its colonial heritage, not because of it. Right? If it didn't have the resources to get out of its, like, unsavory, like, history, to ideologically found itself from something better than what it arose, then I would not support it. I would not be America first. For example, I love my family, not because they're perfect, but because I am committed to what they can be. And I'm my family first because I'm committed to what they can be. Sometimes my children make mistakes, and I love them despite their mistakes. I don't love them because of their mistakes. I wish they didn't make those mistakes. Right? I love them, and my love is committing to what they could be in spite of their mistakes. Right? That's how I love America and why I'm America first. I hope that's clear. And America Black people make America better than it is. Some of the best Americans were Black Americans. Martin Luther King, one of the best Americans America produced. America becomes better. America, like, Black people teach America what it is to be American. White people, like, this is where Nick Fuentes and I disagree. I think I know more about what it is to be American than white people, than Nick Fuentes. Right? I think I know more about what it is to be American than Nick Fuentes. I mean, Fuentes wants a Catholic papacy. Right? I want a self-governing nation. So yeah, I think I'm actually a better, more deeper American. And Nick Fuentes thinks he's a better, more deeper American than Tucker Carlson because of Tucker Carlson's elite sensibilities. Like, Tucker Carlson is like a royalist in the American Revolutionary War. So I think yeah, so I think Black Americans are the greatest Americans. I think Yvette Carnell is a better American than other Americans. Now, people talk like this and I think, oh, you're just a conservative. No, I actually understand what nation states are. I actually understand what states are. I actually understand what self-determination is, what freedom is, right? And you need these borders and you need these formations. What you don't need is race. What you need is reason, bounded reason by some given determinations, right? And we need to actually deal with, like, racial harms. So people I don't want a classless society. I wouldn't mind a raceless society, but first we have to actually deal with racial redress. We made races. We can unmake races. But we have to actually redress the racial harms. And make Black people whole in order to do that, right? So, thank you for your time. If you appreciate what I'm doing, go ahead and go to www.funkyacademic.com. Unless there's some more super chats or very good questions, then, so Bakaberg says, have you finished my PhD? No, I'm writing on no-fault divorce as a form of child abuse, so you need a lot of footnotes for that. Hegel and no-fault divorce as a form of child abuse. These 50-50 custodies is just like bad metaphysical math that just is enforced schizophrenia because of what you owe the children is a unified household so that they can have a unified identity from which to grow into their own people. And you have to make these arguments slowly because everyone who's going to read them is going to want to defend no-fault divorce. And I'm saying that it's actually trash. What you're saying is that your parents, as much as they love you, can't commit to each other for the sake of you, even though the other person didn't do anything wrong. And then that's a great way to raise a nihilist who's eventually going to become a groyper, who hopefully after they become a groyper can get fixed out of that and actually get their consciousness raised and become a healthy person. So thank you for your time. And Cheryl says, I'd love for you to be part of the King Randall School for Boys in Georgia. I don't know what that is, but yeah, you know, I think boys deserve good school. So yeah, let's hit me up, and I'll talk to you another time. If you appreciate what I'm doing, go watch other videos and share it with your friends, because like I said, the trajectory is going to be that Tyler Robinson draws eyes from Charlie Kirk to Nick Fuentes with the presupposition. The losers are going to say, well, they're going to go with Nick Fuentes, and they're going to be Nick Fuentes is going to be stigmatized, and they're going to listen to Nick Fuentes and get turned off. I think Charlie Kirk's going to draw eyeballs to Nick Fuentes, and Nick Fuentes is going to see a resurgence. He's going to be ascendant, and now you're going to have even more groypers, and they're going to be kind of awful, obnoxious people, and you're going to need to kind of like cleanse their system. They're going to need a quality of ideological dialysis, and that is what I do this video for, so you can bring them here and sit them down, so that I can clean their brain and say that they were right in thinking that Fuentes was deeper than the dumb conservatives, but they were wrong because Fuentes still has limits, untoward limits in his apprehension of how institutions realize freedom. So thank you for your time, and I will talk to you the next time. My next show is going to be a takedown on feminism. I think the Civil Rights Act, the introduction of sex in the Civil Rights Act was a disaster for gender, racial, and labor justice. And I'm going to give the whole argument from Helen Hacker to Griffiths to the Phillies Karen on my next show. So thank you for your time. Peace.